My name is Safia Abdigir. I'm the Industry Programming Manager at Reelworld. We have Marina, Hanna, who is our programmer at Reelworld. And we have David Osubronie, who is the head of operations at Toronto Outdoor Picture Show. So this panel today is about festival strategy. And the reason why I wanted to have both of you is like Marina alongside, the other programmers. You program at Reelworld. You also screen for the Human Rights Watch Film Festival. David, you program for the Outdoor Picture Show. And so for Marina, you've been with Reelworld for a couple of years. Could you talk about what you've seen since first joining Reelworld and how, the quality of films or even the process have shifted over the years?
I would say, I think, this is my 4th or 5th year programming with Reelworld. And the major difference from when I started until now is the quality of the films that we're getting and the number of submissions that we get. When I started the first year, there was an element to the program that was still international. We still would take a few international films. And now we're turning away really wonderful films because we just can't program them all. So the quality of the submissions we're getting are much higher, and there's more people out there making films from what I could see. So that's wonderful news, I think, for us and for you.
David, you've programmed for Regent Park Film Festival, and now you're at the Toronto Outdoor Picture Show, and you've also worked at different festivals in other capacities. Could you talk about your festival and the kind of audience that comes out for it?
Yeah, for sure. So, right now I'm at Toronto Outdoor Picture Show, and we do outdoor screenings across the city. Our mainstay, it was originally Christie Pitts Film Festival, and that's just expanded across the city over time. They've been in existence for like 13 years now, but our goal is kind of move around the city and work with different communities and just different audiences. Specifically at the Outdoor Picture Show, because we cater to different communities, we're specifically maybe marketing each program or like gearing each program to those communities. So it seems very broad, but it's still very specific at the same time, because like there's certain parks that are more family oriented, so that's where like those kind of films will go. And like we can go, let's say Fort York was one of our parks where we can kind of get away with a little bit more and like pay more like to the R-rated side to the films, because it's like gated. We don't have like random people walking by. So yeah, it's just a certain strategy that we have, but we're particularly marketing to different communities with our programming.
Amazing. I'm also going to invite Aisha Evelyn on stage. She's also a programmer at Reelworld, and when we created this panel, I think you're one of the first people I was thinking about to speak, because you're also a filmmaker, and also you've been at quite a lot of film festivals, and so I wanted that insight as well. Could you talk about, programming for Reelworld, and also like how that has shaped how you apply to film festivals and your process as well?
Is this, oh, it's on, okay. That is a great question, Safia, and thank you for having me up here. This was very last minute, so thank you. I actually had a film at Reelworld in 2017, my first film I ever made, and then I was like, I need to know, like, this festival business seems like it's the key to unlocking my Oscar. Kidding, totally kidding. So I actually messaged Tanya Williams, and I was like, I'd love to get involved so I could learn more, because I figure what's the best way to learn about strategizing to go to festivals is to know what's going on the inside. So yeah, like basically I got into festival programming to learn about this festival business. So yeah, and it was Tanya. She was like, sure, and we chatted for an hour and a half, and I was shocked that she wanted to talk that long. But that's where it started.
And how has that like informed your process in terms of applying to festivals?
Okay, so it's twofold when it comes to strategy. I think the biggest thing, I know this might sound silly, but like emotions and worth stuff. When you understand that like Reelworld Film Festival has a duty to make some money to fill seats, and they might be working with a theme that year. Like when you understand that there are certain things that the programmers have to figure out that have nothing to do with how good or bad your film is, it kind of takes the pressure off of you. It's more like for me, it's like, oh, I didn't get in, but it doesn't mean I'm awful at making films. It's like, oh, I didn't get into this festival, but there are myriad issues or reasons as to why that have nothing to do with me. And like that was the biggest thing that shaped my process when it comes to festival strategy, was leaving myself alone, which I know is not like, we can get into the nitty gritty, but that's one of the bigger things where I was just like, I no longer felt debilitated being like, wow, I wasted $65 US. It's like, I tried, you know?
But there are a lot of things that you can do to
yes.
increase your chances. And one of them, David and I were talking before this started, and I'd like to get a sense in the room, who here, out of the filmmakers, has a strategy when it comes to submitting films to the festival?
You should all.
Okay, so not everyone,
Yeah.
and I'd be curious to learn about your strategy later. But this is one of the things we were talking about, that there's so many festivals out there. I think Safia was saying Toronto has the highest number of festivals in the world.
Saturated.
Per capita.
Yeah,
Per capita. So there is nearly a festival for everything and everyone, but what ones matter to you? Why do you want to attend certain festivals? What do you get out of it, especially as an emerging filmmaker, are questions that you should be asking yourself. So when you have your film, or even as you're creating it, knowing where you would like to go with it and why is a really important. It's probably the first question you should ask yourself before you start submitting films on Film Freeway. And then we could address some other points on Film Freeway afterwards too, as people start to ask questions. But I'll let you take it from there.
Amazing. I was actually going to throw a question to you, David. For a lot of film festivals, there's a limit to how old a film can be before submitting, but your festival's a bit different. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, for sure. As she was saying, I think it's really important for a lot of filmmakers and producers to do the research into all of these many film festivals that are out there, because a lot of them, like myself, I'm also on the board of Regent Park Film Festival, and I used to program there. There are a lot of festivals that honestly do not care about premiere status. Our objective is not to have the first screening for your screening, but we want to make sure there's part of it is we want to make sure you have a good audience there, but premiere status doesn't mean what it means to TIFF and to some other festivals. Yep, to Reelworld. It's not one of our objectives. So it's, just really important for filmmakers and everyone else to do that research, because it should be part of your strategy if you haven't already started thinking about it. And that could affect which ones you're applying to, the timeline of which you're applying to all these festivals, because again, premiere status means something where you could apply to something in September that could ruin your premiere status for another festival. And then there is a huge chunk of festivals that will play your film that are 3 to 5 years old, even longer, as long as it fits maybe their theme. It could fit the feature that it's going before, or the shorts program. There's so many different factors. So it's just doing your research, do the Googles. That's the main thing that I would say, really do that research.
And know your goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extending from the goal conversation, to give you a couple of examples where it's okay, so this short is actually a proof of concept for a feature. And so thinking about how, your film is your vehicle that'll get you where you want to go. You just have to know where you're driving it. So for example, if you're a screenwriter and you've made your first film, you might want to look at a festival that has a screenplay competition. So that, because it's also in some ways this festival is incentivized to be oh wow, this script is dope and they made a feature. Pulling in really cool talent makes the festival look great. So when you talk about knowing your goals, I think that's the first thing. It's what do I want out of this? Do I want filmmaking community? Do I want to make a bunch of pals? There are really great festivals that I've gone to that are huge. And also TIFF is huge, but some of these grassroots festivals foster a sense of community that where a lot of people are sometimes, and I feel like Issa Rae said this, so maybe I'm channeling her, but a lot of people, yes. But a lot of people sometimes are consumed with networking up as opposed to networking across. And so getting clear on your goals, because if it's making co-collaborator pals, that kind of thing, it's you have to get clear on what you want, and then shaping like your festival strategy to what you want, because your film is the vehicle. And read the Film Freeway page. Read it before clicking submit and giving your grocery money, because bananas are $10. Read the page. Bananas are $10.
Yeah, I know that's exactly. I know for at Reelworld that's something you know, we see sometimes people submit to us and it's who are like not even based in Canada, and one of the first things we mention is like, this is a Canadian film festival. We don't screen like international works by international artists.
Or they might not even be Black, Indigenous, or people of color.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah, it's a weird conversation to try to
So
figure
they're
that.
clearly not reading
Yeah.
the description of the festival. But I would say you were talking about goals, and the other thing film festivals could provide besides the networking is exposure to the industry for the first time, especially if you're an emerging filmmaker. So finding out, I mean, we have the E20, a producers program. What programs are around the festival that you could also take part in? That might give you your first or second exposure to people who are in the industry. And just getting accustomed to having these kind of meetings becomes important as an emerging filmmaker. So you have a sense of what is happening now in the industry and where you can grow, if that's what you choose to do. If you're looking to, you know, make independent projects and possibly projects for a broadcaster or something like that. So I don't know if all festivals offer that, but if that is part of your goal, that's something else you should be looking at, because like you were talking about that calendar and when premiere status is important, what is you should still apply to all these festivals, but where are you going to accept first? And where's your second one? So mapping that out for yourself will help alleviate some of the stress later on, because for us, obviously, we compete with TIFF often for films, and we know that TIFF is a larger festival and you might get more exposure. But people will either put off accepting our festival until a very much later date, which puts them at risk of not getting into our festival just by circumstance. We're not vindictive or anything like that.
We are.
It's just it's just a circumstance that we have to move on with our programming. But I would say look at the full experience that you might have, especially if you're in the emerging filmmaker stage.
I would also add, like, actually be in conversation with the programmers. Like, they're aware of like where their film festival lands, and so if you are considering, like, that's a thing you can do, and that actually allows you more time, because if you're still waiting for another place to accept, they're aware of it, and so they'll be following up with you. And I think it's a difference between, like, I guess, burning a bridge and just knowing that a door is open for you after.
Speaking to communication, Reza wanted me to mention something very important. Check your email. Often we have questions for you. We might be asking for further details, and you might have set up an email for your production company, but nobody is checking it. So you don't know that you might have been offered a place in the festival, or we might have some follow-up questions. So if you have a team of people who are helping to promote your film or get it into festivals, or if it's you yourself, I would say be on top of that email. I know that sounds very simple and straightforward, but it's important.
It happens a lot. That's why. Like, and then I don't know, there might be a couple of filmmakers that have received Instagram messages from me being like, hey girl, because like like Reza tried 3 times to get in contact, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll stalk them on the internet. Gently. But yeah, like it sounds, what's the word? It sounds entry level, but like, yeah, it's like one of those things where like, yeah, check your junk, actually.
I feel like it's actually amazing how many people I've reached out to via Instagram DM this year, and like everyone, like directors or whatever, being like, oh, we've tried to reach out to you for this because we want to do this screening, and they'd be like, oh, I didn't check my email. And like, it's like the first thing you should be doing after applying. Like again, it seems like common sense, but I get everyone's busy, but like Instagram DMs or like Messenger is like a different way, and everyone has been like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, I'm glad you reached out this way. Like, this is the only way we found out. But
or attach that email to your main email.
Yeah,
like that, just, you get around the whole issue. I have a question for you, David, but I just want you all to know that we have a mic, so if any of you have a question, please put your hands up. You have worked at TIFF in a different capacity, and print traffic was part of what you were doing. I know for a lot of filmmakers, they especially if they're like strapped with budget as everyone is, think about, post-production and not necessarily think about all the other costs that might come into play. Could you speak a bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess my history starting at TIFF, I started there in technical production. Basically, I was like the new digital projectionist because I came there at a time where DCP was the new format for all your films. And they just needed a way to manage that with the distributors, how they put it up on screen. What that has taught me and what I share with every filmmaker is there needs to be more attention to the post of your film. Like I know it's very time consuming and mentally exhausting to be like, I've created this project and you're probably completely burnt out. But there needs to be the things to think about the after. Like as simple as like, what format is your film? Like, again, when you're looking up the festivals that you're applying to, what formats do they accept? Like, and then breaking it down even more, like talking about things like, hey, can I start to get captions on this film, like right away? Because, like, at least the way a lot of community festivals in the city right now, like, they want more captioned and more accessible films, and they don't have the budget to do it themselves. So if you have that already, like, that's just another, like, bump for you. Like, even if they're like a toss-up between your film and another film, they will be like, this film's ready to go. Like, format's great, captions are there, like, it's just an extra bonus. So, like, again, I think it goes back to Marina's point about, like, having a team around you, but, like, if your whole focus is, like, the creative aspect of your film, like, bring in some people around to, like, fill those gaps, and, like, technical or post-production is one of those gaps. Like, I beg you to get a friend or somebody, or like go to one of those industry things and like reach out to somebody who's on that side of it. Like, I'm not a filmmaker, wouldn't touch it, but I do the other side, like the back end, and I know there's a huge community of those people who would rather just uplift everyone else's film and like do the back end of it. So like there is a group of people that you could reach out to that will help you with that. But just please, like, think about the post, like what happens after, like with my physical or digital product of my film, like what happens to that piece after.
I sent an email to a friend of mine who I thought would enjoy coming to Reelworld, and she emailed me back and said, I can't find any trailers. Yeah. And we did post a few trailers, but we didn't have trailers for every film. So those are other assets you might want to consider. Once your film is done and you're looking to promote it at a festival, cutting a trailer, a preview, what other assets do you have? Now we were talking to someone on staff about how to use TikTok, and that's a different format. So having these assets can really help you especially once you get into a festival and you want to promote your specific screening. So I think there's a lot more for filmmakers to think about now more than ever. And if you can get a team together who would like to help you promote your film, that would be wonderful, because it is, I know how much work it is. I mean, the fact that you've completed a film is such a great achievement, but there's all these other factors to think of now. But I know you wanted to make this more interactive.
Can I add I just wanted to add a list.
But put up your hands and someone will come with you with a mic.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, make this concrete, if y'all want to take your phones out, I have a list for you. DCP. A poster. DCPs cost money, so you might want to actually consider like saving some money for that. And then like also having your trailer, like that's a real thing, a minute trailer, a minute 30. And what happens is like usually the rush, like you deliver to your first festival and it's always just like, oh my God, so many things. So if you can set yourself up for success, do so. Right now you probably do want your trailer in 9:16, which is like the TikTok aspect ratio, as well as like 16:9 or whatever it is for Instagram. Because it's just smart, because like chances are you're like, maybe your mom will share it on Facebook, but like not a lot of people are on Facebook, like is a thing. BTS photos, like if you have the bandwidth, if you have the budget to have somebody come out even for an hour to take some pictures, if you like, you know what I mean? Like that is helpful. And then when you're about to when you've packaged your short, like pulling high-res stills, so you're not like watching it back on Vimeo, taking screenshots of it. So like you can ask your editor to pull those stills for you. Like those kinds of things are helpful. Sometimes we even consider like, and this is where you get into promotion, like an EPK, which is like an electronic press kit. But if you Google, what do I need for an electronic press kit? It's like a bunch of stuff. And like, if you're finishing your film, take a look at the list that you'll find in an electronic press kit and try and follow that list, because you'll save yourself a world of headache and, in my personal experience, crying if you just do that before. Like take care of present you as opposed to being like, that's a later me problem, because later you will be sad.
I think we should talk about Film Freeway a bit, but I want to see if there are any questions at this point.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there are forms of research that filmmakers either like misunderstand or like underappreciate that are not like Film Freeway centric, because it's like fairly easy to just like scroll Film Freeway forever. But are there other pieces that like folks are missing, or is it just like doing your Googles?
Well, in our experience, what we see on our end, it's obvious people haven't read those descriptions before they apply. So I think you would save yourself money. You could, take the top ones off Film Freeway. I think we're really good about sharing a lot of detail on Film Freeway. I don't know about other festivals, but I think what happens is people just choose a long list of films without reading what they're applying to before they apply. And you just end up, I don't know how much money they end up spending, but.
Oh,
Yeah.
waiver codes. Waiver codes.
Oh, waiver codes. That's a good one.
That's a good thing to note as well. Some festivals don't do waiver codes, but even then I usually just email them anyway, because bananas are $10. So sometimes a nicely crafted email, like the email on the Film Freeway is usually there, or like even if you go to the festival's website, because not every festival is on Film Freeway, like South by isn't on Film Freeway. For a long time, TIFF wasn't on Film Freeway, Oberhausen isn't on Film Freeway, but if you go to their website and you email the programming, whatchamabob, you just say, hi, I'm a filmmaker, I made my movie on a shoestring budget, bananas are $10, or like costs are prohibitive. Would you be willing to provide either a discount waiver or full waiver, and like maybe your log line of your film, and then also why you're asking this festival. Like Edmonton International would be a dream, Reelworld would be a dream festival to premiere at, because I love how you champion Black, Indigenous, people of color voices, and I'm excited to join the network, or blah, blah, blah. Like, nicely worded email goes a long way. Sometimes they just say no, but you have to shoot your shot, and so waiver codes. Back to you.
Yeah, and we have, Reelworld does early bird, and then we have a few stages.
Yeah, and also, like, honestly, if you just email us, we give it to you.
We're pretty good about that.
Pretty chill, yeah.
What about for you,
I was just
David?
going to add that, yes, like you said, there's festivals that don't use Film Freeway, so a beautifully crafted email like that to the programmer, to the team, will let them know, like, it's to get your film on their radar. Like, for us specifically, there's, besides scouting at other film festivals or just people actually emailing us, there's no other way for us to see it because we don't have Film Freeway. So, like, you need to get on our, like, radar. And because we specifically work in themes every year, again, it hopefully won't be, like, debilitating if your film doesn't get in that specific year, but because we work in themes, your film might not be the right fit for that specific year, but the next year, the year after, it might be. Like, we work in 3 year ahead, like, for our themes, so we already have films coming in, and we're like, beautiful film, I love it, everyone just, like, 10s across the board, but we know it doesn't fit our theme next year, but we know that 2025, perfect. Opening night, like, our biggest stage, like, we're already thinking of that. So, again, trying to get on the team's radar. Of course, you have to be cognizant of the time of when you send that email. Like, I would not be sending any of these people right now any emails to the Reelworld account while you're like, hey, can you watch my film? It's not going to happen during their festival. But there's definitely, like, waves of the year. But that all comes down to, like, the research you do when you look into the film festival. Look when their submission time is. Look at the start of that. That's when you should start to send those emails out and try to get on people's attention and their radar.
I know we have one question, but I'm actually going to follow up with you, David. Actually, in discussing with you, I didn't realize how big of an audience you have. Who are the people who are like surprised having their film at your festival and really get the most out of it?
Yeah, like I'd say for us, again, because we're doing like just outdoor screenings, I don't want to say heavily lean on just like the randoms who are walking by and just so happen to see like this big inflatable screen and be like, oh, what do you have playing tonight? But there's some nights like we can get to the 2,000, 2,500 people just in a park to watch our screenings. And I say this especially to everyone in the room, like we specifically do Canadian shorts. So like those are the ones that like you need to reach out and be like, you know, I would love if my film get played or whatever. Like just try to get on our radar. But those shorts specifically, like I know it works out to like the programming team and like the timeline, like, and because we program our features where it could be like a critically acclaimed film or it could just be like a popular favorite. Like you might get matched up with E.T. or something. But like it's those nights where there are like 2,000 people and you're short that might have got played at a different festival and may have got played for like 500 people or something. All of a sudden, you've got all these people who are just expecting this big spectacle, and all of a sudden they see your short right before. And of course, if you're local, you're invited to come. And if you're there and like see it, it's an experience. And I think that's kind of what we market at Toronto Outdoor Picture Show, at least for those. So like when Canadian filmmakers are there and they see all of these people just like drinking wine on the hill or whatever, watching your film. Like, it's something that they're not expecting, like that many people. It's something that we're not expecting a lot, especially since I'm running operations. But like, it's just an added bonus, I think, for everyone included. And like, we want to make, again, that experience for people. And hopefully, you get matched up with something as beautiful as an E.T. Or like, we had Rice Boy Sleeps this year that is a beautiful film, of course, but like we had like 2,000 people. Like it was mind blowing, and we were like, "Oh, this is going to be like one of our quiet ones because it's a beautiful film, but not a lot of people knew it." But the short that was attached to it, that was like one that was like made in Brampton. Like they were blown away. They were like, had no idea the reception it was going to get because of it. So like, again, it's just something to think about.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. What if you have a film? What age, is there a cutoff for a film, like a certain age that you can put it in? Because I have a film that I shot that I completed over 10 years ago. Have a trailer, it's been translated into 4 different languages, and there's 2 teacher's guides for the Canadian curriculum that goes along with it. Where would I go with something like that?
Special presentation, maybe?
What's the theme or topic of your film generally?
About the first Canadian-born black judge in the country.
Ooh, cool. Well, I think, okay, my pitch is, yes, there are cutoffs because like it's like programmers are looking like what's new, what's hot. So like usually it has to be made inside 2 years for that festival. But what I think about, because I'm programming something like a retrospective that's happening in December, we think, I don't know. We'll see. Is a special presentation where a film is out of competition, but they'll still screen it. And so when it comes to, like, for example, actually, Fabienne Collat at, like, the Toronto Black Film Festival, they have, like, there's, like, 9 of them in the country now. Well, not 9, but you know what I mean. Wakanda. But, like, but you get what I'm saying in the sense that, like, they might not play the film as, like, in competition new, but, like, there might be a need for it, and it might be one of those things. Because, like, TIFF does that as well. Like, you can still see stuff on 70mm during the festival. And so when I think about it, I just think about, like, a special presentation or an out of
And
competition.
that's where having relationships in the industry can help, because they might help you find a home for it. And I'm trying to think, even a broadcaster relationship, depending on the theme.
It was broadcast?
Oh, it was broadcast.
Maybe like I'm also still looking for films for this retrospective, so maybe
So
we should
then I would
talk.
say retrospectives, is it?
Yeah.
Because it's premiered, because we don't, if your film has already been on the CBC, and chances are most film festivals are like this, but it doesn't get, if the premiere status is important, then it won't have play at festivals unless it's in a retrospective kind of curated program, or sometimes there's specific festivals that might be looking for archival material.
Yeah, like even like a regional specific, like for example, I'm not sure where you made it, but like if it was made in Interior Canada, that kind of thing. Like, and I think it just goes back to like looking, like it goes back to Google, unfortunately, which is kind of just like there are so many festivals, and so just emailing, being like, hey, I have this movie, it pertains to blah 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 blah. Yes, it's a little bit older, but I think it's still relevant today, and kind of just trying to forge that relationship. Like it might be it might be tough because again, festivals are looking for like what's new, but even so, like especially when it comes to Black, Indigenous people of color in cinema, and like being able to see stuff that was made 20 years ago, people don't know it, you know what I mean? So I do think there is a hunger for it. I think it's just about like finding your audience, and like the whole finding your audience thing doesn't change whether it's been made 20 years ago or was made yesterday. And like internationally, for example, like there's a huge Afro like community in Brazil. Like I think it just goes back to like Google.
Yeah, what I would say to that too is also like, of course I'm thinking specifically of like Regent Park Film Festival, like I'm on the board there. Our programmer is here, Alice is here. I know she's not looking away. Yep, there you go. But like, again, when you're doing that research for the festivals, like Regent Park does school programming, for example. Like as soon as you said that, like that's exactly where my mind would go, where if these festivals do have like a school program, if they play to high schools, they play elementary schools, if they do have a film that could match that curriculum, it sounds like that film would be perfect for it. And if they don't have a mandate on time, like that would be a perfect place to send your film to. So again, it goes back to the research and digging, and you can find these like school, these community screenings, these offshoots that don't necessarily need this premiere status, but they will play archival and older films, absolutely.
I would, last thing before we move on to the next question, I'll also say Reel Canada. Their whole thing is Reel Canada. They screen Canadian films in schools, and they have teacher guides along with them. So like approach them, and they might have a space for that as well. We have a question at the front.
Yeah, hello. So my question is, on Film Freeway, how do you decipher between good film festivals and film festivals that are like a bit sketch, you know? Because
Reviews.
there's so many, right?
Yeah.
And my second question is, what is the timeline? So if I make a film, say in December or October, so how long can I put it in film festivals? Like for a year? Like what's the?
I'd say word of mouth, and like so reviews, like on the Film Freeway, like you can see the reviews of people, stalk their Instagram, sometimes like how long the festival has been running as well. And then also, if you notice a title, like you can probably go to their website, and if you find, like you can go to usually they have their last year's program listed on their website, if they have a website. Doing your own research, so like stalking their socials, stalking the programmers. Y'all can stalk me, I exist on the internet. That kind of thing. I think it just goes back to research and like judging for yourself. Also, if it's astronomical, if like the cost is just like crazy, if it's like a festival you've never heard of in your life, and they're asking for like $90 for a 3-minute short film, like red flag, you know? Red flag.
Have you seen, because you've applied to so many festivals recently, have you seen some that seem suspicious out there?
I say for me, like typically, I feel like where I am in my filmmaking career, like, and where I've been programmed, I am less so looking for smaller festivals, more grassroots, because I'm trying to, remember when I told everyone here to network across? I'm trying to network up. I'm kidding, but but in the past, like definitely in 2017, but I was doing that kind of research. I was being like, okay, like, what can I get out of this festival? And then I actually was doing that research, which is like,
Going back to understanding what that festival can offer you as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd only add to that is, again, because we have so many film festivals here, go to the festival. Like,
Yeah.
Yes. Who goes to film festivals?
Go.
Not just TIFF, but other film festivals.
that's the key
It's
point.
so important to see what your cohorts are making. I think it becomes also obvious when through some submissions that people aren't going to other festivals and they don't understand what kind of films are at and the quality of films at other festivals. So it's a wonderful idea to know who your contemporaries are.
Yeah, and
To the scheduling
don't just go to the
question.
opening night. Go to like the middle of the week too.
Yeah.
You'll get both different kind
See
of
the
things.
shorts
Opening and closing are
programs.
always the biggest, right? But like a random shorts program at 2 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, like those are actually the times to go because you'll actually see filmmakers from the city. You'll see like local talent, local people just kind of scout. Like those are the people that
Become
ask.
fans of your fellow filmmakers in Canada.
Network across.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But your scheduling question, yes. I mean, occasionally I would say about a year or two after you finish a film, because you probably either are on, a lot of filmmakers are just on to their next film. So you're not on the festival circuit for over a year because you're usually working on another project by then. Or if you're lucky, you're on a streaming network by then, so it becomes ineligible for festivals. Yeah. So I would say roughly a year afterwards, because you would have moved on, or maybe you're on CBC Gem or something like that afterwards. You can always email us
Yeah.
Yes.
and ask us a question, especially in our downtime, as you were saying, when we have time. And if there's enough.
Yeah.
If we find a lot of people are emailing us, maybe we could do a virtual session one of these days and answer questions.
To all of you, David, Marina, Hannah, Aisha. And now I think we're going to be switching over to the next panel. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.